Welcome, John. This is you're the Depute President, and this is our accountability sessions that we're going through. So just to start off, how did you base your campaign manifesto on the students' wants and needs rather than what you think should be done?
So it was partially on things that I had experienced, things that I recognised that were a problem. And if I knew it was a problem for me, it was more than likely going to be a problem for other people. An example of that would be on feedback. I had some issues in my school with getting feedback promptly. Another example is on the e-resources. Those were the two main things that I was focusing on when I was doing a wee bit of research before I made up my manifesto. And I knew that every single module that I've done in second and third year had absolutely no ebooks. There was e-journals, there was lots of e-journals available, so there were resources, but there were no ebooks available at all, especially core books. In my international politics module in second year, it was a dual run module, so it was in Paisley and in Hamilton, so that was upwards of 250 students taking that module, and there were 2 core textbooks in the whole university. And for Scotland's largest modern university, that is unacceptable in my opinion. There should be at least some access to ebooks, especially core textbooks, because that's the core books that lecturers are using. Therefore, that is the one that most people want access to, and if there's only 2 of them, you cannot expect students to, fund their way through it or use their student loan. I know some lecturers will argue, you get your student loan, you're supposed to buy your books for, but I believe that it's the university should be supplying those as the resources that they should be supplying for students.
Okay. In your manifesto, you made a few things clear of what you're going to do within your year in office. So, what is the criteria of the best union in Scotland? And how will you firstly achieve this, and secondly measure that you have achieved this?
So to be the best union in Scotland, we're looking at things around engagement, ensuring that all our structures are the best that they can be, such as the sabbatical structure. A motion was passed at Student Voice recently that put in a flat structure that took away campus representation from the sabbatical point of view into 4 remit-based roles, including volunteer officers as well, to ensure there is still campus representation. So we've managed to fix that. Other things are ensuring that there is adequate liberation representation. We've managed to fix the commercial side over the past 6 months. We've got new staff in at Paisley, which was one of the commercial units that they weren't achieving what they should have been. So we're looking to fix that. Things that you can measure, like representation and how happy students are with their union, are things like the mass membership survey. That's run by the membership team of SAUWS, and the data from that you can see if the satisfaction rate goes up. It means that we're doing what we should be doing, and we're achieving what could be deemed the best union in Scotland.
What happens if that gives you negative results?
Then there's a problem. But then if we get negative results and the satisfaction rate goes down, there's a lot of qualitative and quantitative data in that survey, so we can see where we've gone wrong, and then use that in the next year to fix it and ensure that those problems are rectified.
Okay. How are you improving the feedback process?
So with feedback, what I did was in the summer, I started looking at the lecturer's perspective for student perceptions of feedback and what they thought students thought feedback was. So I did an interview survey type scenario with about 20 lecturers. So that gave me a good base of knowledge. And since September, when the students came back, I have been working in partnership with the business school. And we had around about 1,100 responses to another survey that we did, but the survey was with students, and that survey was looking at the student expectation of feedback and what the students expected feedback to be. So from that survey, we surveyed on all 4 campuses in Paisley, Hamlin, Ayr and Dumfries. We surveyed all year groups, so first year, second year, third year, fourth year honours and postgrad and distance learners as well. And all programmes within the business school. So we managed to get every single area within the business school. We are currently analysing that data, so we don't have the full results from it yet, but I'm hoping to get that by next week. And from that we can start looking at, ways forward for what the students are wanting from feedback. So one of the questions was, what form should the feedback take? Should it be written down? Should it be verbal? Should it be through one-to-one interviews? And once we know that information, then I can take something forward to other schools and say, listen, this is what students expect from feedback. We'll need to start thinking about ways that we can implement it. Another good practice for feedback was through the Health Nursing and Midwifery School. They have what is a front cover sheet for feedback, and the purpose of that is students can themselves identify an area that they're struggling in, and then ask for extended feedback in a specific area. So if it is something like referencing, if they think they're really struggling with referencing, they can put on this front cover sheet, give me extended feedback on referencing, and then will give their overall feedback, ... And then when it gets to the referencing section, they'll give a much larger pool of information for the students to reflect upon and move it forward for their next assessment. I think it's a really good thing, and it would be really good to see that rolled out across all the different schools. I brought it up at the NSS conference, so a lot of the programme leaders that were there know about it now, so it's just a case of getting it implemented across all the schools.
Good. What was the percentage of clashing exams in the last 5 years, and how will you resolve this?
So for this one, I kind of struggled to get the information. I contacted the exams unit, and they could only get me from 2013. And they didn't have percentages, they had student numbers. So May 2013 there were 9 students came to them saying, I have an exam clashing. August 2013 it was 2, January 2014 it was 11, May 2014 it was 7, August 2014 it was 4, January 2015 was 8, May 2015 was 1, and last August there was 7. I couldn't work that into percentages, but that was the kind of number. They are very small, but it is obviously still a problem for those students. So one of the things I'll be working with is John Anderson, he's the head of registry and exams. So I'm going to work on something with him to try and find a way of negating these kind of exam clashes. And I might actually want to go a wee step further than exam clashes, because I think those numbers were people that got exams on the same time. But what I want to try and avoid is students getting an exam on the same day. I know it's happened. I had friends who were in 4th year when I was in 3rd year doing their honours, and they had 2 exams in the one day. And in an honours year, your stress levels are already elevated, and then to get 2 exams that you had to prepare for in the same day isn't really good for their mental well-being or their stress levels. So I'll be working on that over the next few months for the next exam diet. Okay.
How will you remove late library fees, and what if the students don't return the books at all?
So the library fees one has already been done at UWS and in other institutions. It was done in UWS about 3-4 years ago. They did a library fees amnesty. The purpose of an amnesty is to remove any late fees as a way of encouraging students to bring books back, because they might have £30-40 worth of late fees that they can't afford to pay, therefore they kept the books. So it's a way of replenishing the library stock, and like I said, if there's not a book there that you need because a student's still got it and they've got a £30 late fee, they might keep that book. But if they said, right, we'll take away your fee, let you bring the book back, bring the book back, you can take that book out. Another way of getting around if the book isn't there, what you're going to do as a student is through ebooks. If there were more ebooks available, especially core text, like I said before, then more students will have access to those books that they need for their course.
Why do you think sexual health clinics in UWS are so important? How will you set these up, and how will you guarantee confidentiality of students going to these?
That's a really good question, especially about the confidentiality stuff, because that would be really important for students, especially when they're dealing with their own sexual health. But with sexual health clinics, as sexual health is part of my remit on the welfare side of things, the standard thing has been in the past just to set up a stall, get some leaflets on it about safe sex, and then hand out some condoms. I wanted to do something a wee bit different, so in the summer I researched a wee bit about getting how I could get sexual health clinics onto campus, and I found that it was possible, so I contacted some of the health boards. They also got 4 campuses, so I contacted 4 health boards, and only 2 of them said that they were able to do it. So that was NHS Ayrshire and Arran for the Ayr campus, and NHS Lanarkshire for Hamilton. Ayrshire was a really good one. Down at the Ayr campus we done about 25 tests, and Hamilton not so much. We didn't really get much interest at all. I don't know if it was maybe due to the timing of the event, or maybe a lack of advertisement, but I'll certainly look at that for the next time, and see what I could do to change it and improve it, and get more people along to that kind of thing. Sexual health is really important for especially for young adults. They tend to do a bit of experimentation whilst they are at university, and we just want to ensure that they're doing it safely. For the confidentiality stuff, it was provided by NHS professionals. So it was provided by NHS nurses who are fully registered. They held all the information themselves, we never saw it, and the actual tests were done in a private room away from main student view. So it was done in the first aid rooms, so no one saw the students going in. Alright.
Okay. What Scottish general election debates have you attended or arranged, and what is the attendance of students at these?
So a quick answer to that one is none, because the last general election for Scotland was in 2011, and I wasn't even in college by then. But what has happened in the past was during the independence referendum in 2014, and the run up to that, SAUWS organised a referendum debate with some local politicians. We had Christina McKelvey, who's from SNP, with Patrick Harvey, co-convener of the Green Party. We had Robin McAlpine from the Commonweal, and we had Drew McGowan, who was a UWS student, and that was quite a good event. We had about 100 people there, but it was open to the public as well. I was at it as well as a student, and I think there was about between 50 and 60 students there, so it was a well attended debate. Moving forward for the upcoming general election, a couple of things I've been thinking of is either to actually just hold a debate, a hustings for election candidates on the campuses, or what we've been discussing with my the membership team, and is possibly doing a regional hustings, because of the complex way of selecting candidates for Scottish Parliament. You've got MSPs, and then you've got list MSPs for regions. So that's looking like it could be a strong possibility, and getting it hosted probably in Strathclyde University Union in Glasgow, because it's bigger, it's more central. We can get it involved with us, with local colleges, with Glasgow Cali, and with Strathclyde, so we can get all the candidates in the one place, and then transport students from each of the campuses over to Strathclyde.
Okay. How will you get the e-library resources improved, and who will add the books to the library? Because I can imagine that's a long process. Do we have funding for this kind of thing?
So the e-resources is one of my main research projects at the moment. That's what I'm doing just now. I'm currently sending out a survey to students, another survey. I know I've made apologies to students that I know they've been getting a lot of surveys, but there's literally no other way that I can get this key qualitative and quantitative information I need to work on this project. That's ongoing. That data will close probably by next week, and then I can start analysing the data from that. But in the summer, I started looking at the financial stuff. So I FOI'd several institutions that we benchmark ourselves against across Scotland. So places like QMU, Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, and Edinburgh Napier. And I asked them, how many books they had, how many ebooks they had, how many students they have, and how much resources allocated to the library to pay for those resources. And I've just got some figures for you. So QMU spend £124 per student. RGU spend £90 per student. Napier spend £85 per student, and UWS spend £47 per student. Then that's not good enough. The library already know that that's not good enough. They're on board with the stuff that I'm doing, which is really good. The people we need to convince the university and the university executive to provide more funding for this. So the purpose of the research that I'm doing around e-resources and how students use e-resources whilst they're studying here at UWS is going to that's going to be the core argument to say, listen, students need these e-books. The e-usage has actually went up this year by 71%, which is really good. Again, that's that's an inclination that more and more students are actually using e-books. However, I will still say that on my course when I was studying, we had absolutely no e-books, but that doesn't mean to say that we wouldn't use them. So the data that I'm gathering, along with the data I've already gathered around the financial stuff, will be the core to the report that I take to the appropriate committee, and will be core for the argument for more funding for the library in the first instance, and then more funding to be allocated to resources and electronic resources.
How will students benefit from free water and de-stressing activities during exams when they should be home studying?
So the water one is for when they're actually coming in for their exam. So what I plan to do is just set up a wee table around the main exam areas on the campuses, and then just to give out the waters whilst they're going to their exam. There's a research that was done by the University of East London and the University of Westminster around hydration and exams and exam performance, and they found that 5% students did 5% better in an exam if they had water as opposed to the students that didn't have water provided for them. So there's a clear link to water, staying hydrated during an exam. For the de-stress and stuff, what I plan to do is just to have a space of contemplation, a quiet room for students to go, just to provide a space for them to go if they are feeling like anxious or nervous before or after an exam, that they can go into this room and just take it all out of their mind and just relax for 5, 10, 15 minutes before they come to their exam or after their exam.
Okay. So that's our that's your manifesto covered. We've gone through all those questions. You'll remember that we had an email. You and I exchanged an email.
Yep.
Last month. So the next few questions are about that. What are the numbers of students using other Nightline? Oh, for fuck's sakes! I'm going to start that again.
We'll let that out, don't worry.
Or keep it in.
I'll keep that.
What are the numbers of students using the student nightlines in the area? And how will you inform students of the services, considering that not many other services seem to be used by the students currently?
What do you mean by the services aren't being used?
You have said to me that you set up a sexual health clinic, and 0 students came in Hamilton.
Yeah.
We are also very aware of the fact that there are student services, for example, the mental health discretionary funds, and the SAUWS is very active in trying to promote this to students, but it's not being used as much as it possibly could. So how will you ensure that you're not just putting out a service there that's not going to be utilised like everything else?
Right, okay. For the numbers using Nightline in the area, I couldn't get the information. I had contacted Strathclyde and Glasgow Cali Student Associations because their lead officers are the ones that lead on, because it's a volunteer run service, but they were yet to get back to me. But I do have some numbers, but it's for the UK. So there are 36 nightlines being run across the whole of the UK, and in the last year over 18,000 students have used that service, and with the 36 nightlines 1.5 million students have access to it. With regards to the promotion of it, if it was to be implemented at UWS, which I really want to do, the counselling service, which they deal with a lot of mental health issues for students. They're very stretched thin resource. Currently, there's only about 5 counsellors that do the 3 camps, and then another one that does Dumfries. They are always the busiest around exam time, and the waiting list round about that time will be about 4 weeks. The purpose of a nightline is it can be an immediate outburst for a student. Maybe they just need to vent, maybe they need to get something off their chest, and if they were having to wait 4 weeks to see the counsellor, it could have dire consequences, both for their continuing mental health or for their own well-being. So having that kind of service there would be deeply valuable. For the promotion of it, there's various methods of promotion. You could set up a separate social media site to deal specifically with the nightline stuff. It could be advertised through the student link. So if a student says, I want to see a counsellor, the student link say, okay, it's 4 weeks. Do you want to wait that long? That's fine. But there's also this service available as well. That's an immediate service that operates between these hours. You can call them tonight, which will alleviate some of that stress that student feels.
Okay, thank you. How will you attain more library funding, and what is the status of this currently?
So I'll just link that back into the e-resource stuff. That's where I'm trying to get more funding from, and that is to buy more electronic books, so that the maximum amount of students available can have access to those resources. It's ongoing. The report I'm hoping to have done by the end of the year, so for January. But I'm more than happy to share that with students.
Okay. So normally at this point I would go on to any student questions, but I haven't got any questions to me specifically for you, so I don't have any of those, so we'll move on to my specific questions for you. So were you aware that last year in Hamilton coffee cost £1? In all the changes over the summer, Paisley's price went down by almost 50%, but Hamilton went up by 30 pence, which is 30%. How do you feel about this, and do you know if the situation is the same in Ayr or Dumfries?
Are you talking about the union or the university?
The university.
The university, so they went up to £1.30.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. No, I wasn't aware of that, because no one made me aware of it. There was no student had contacted me saying that this has been an issue for them, and if it is an issue for them, then I'm more than happy to work on it. Although the one thing they could note is that we actually supply coffee in the union in Hamilton, and it's 85 pence. So I think if they want cheap coffee, then they can come over to the union and get it from there. For Ayr and Dumfries, Ayr don't supply coffee in the union yet, but they will be soon. Dumfries, I'm not really aware of the prices down in Dumfries. But it's something. If students really feel that it's affecting their welfare, and if they can't really afford to be paying that kind of money, and if they want to come to me and say, "Can you work on this, please?" and I'll be more than happy to do that for them.
Okay, thank you. So Dumfries is part of UWS, but it's left out on so many campaigns. Should this be this way, and how do you think the Dumfries students feel about this?
Absolutely not. Should not be the way. They do have, it's a very unique case in Dumfries, because they have a sort of hybrid student association that represents them as well as SAUWS. So they've got CUCSA, which is Crichton University Campus Student Association. That's a run in partnership with Dumfries and Galloway College, Glasgow University and the University of West Scotland. We do have some representation stuff down there through SAUWS, but the majority of the stuff will be dealt with through CUCSA. That will be getting reviewed in the coming months. By the end of T2, we will hopefully have a solution to improve our presence as SAUWS in Dumfries, because I'm sure the students down there would really appreciate having more representation, having more of a campus presence. They can feel very left out. I know that from speaking to a few of the students that came up from Dumfries at the Student Congress. That was one of the things. I mean, they don't even have any commercial activities down there, but there are ongoing talks at the moment for a variety of things dealing with Dumfries, and when the time comes closer to where we're getting to where we should be, we'll be looking for some student input at that time, and I encourage any students in Dumfries to just get in touch with me or Jack about ideas that they can have for what they want SAUWS to look like in Dumfries, and we'll be taking that on board and hopefully rolling out something else for Dumfries next year.
Okay. How are you actively trying to get students involved in the union, for example, Student Voice, and anything else happening on campus over your year?
So the first thing is just getting out and talking to students, letting them know that these kind of things happen, letting them know what it's for. So like Student Voice, telling students what Student Voice is for, what its purpose is, why they should be coming along to it, what they will get out of it. I've been using social media as ways of communicating. I've been doing stuff down in Ayr, because we currently don't have our campus president there just now, as they're off on sick just now. So I've been covering that campus as well. So I was down last week and this week as well, promoting the upcoming Student Voice that happened this week. So that's the kind of things that I've been doing to promote activities and let the students know what's happening.
Okay. Your role as the Depute President is a major link between all the sabbatical officers. This has previously led to our Depute doing a lot of things on their own. What is the current relationship and workload division?
It's still very heavy on me. Because my remit is so wide, I'm essentially doing two people's jobs with the education remit and the welfare remit. And with like I said, with the campus president Ayr being absent at the moment, I'm sort of taking up some of that slack as well, doing some of the duties there, as well as deputising for the president when that becomes a necessitation as well. I have been trying to get them, the campus president, to do some of my work. If I'm doing a cross-campus project, then I've been trying to get the campus presidents to do that part on their campus that they're at, whilst I'm doing stuff on the other campuses. But I have come up against a bit of persuasion that I've had to do to get them to actually get on board with some stuff. I've had campus president in Hamilton doing some stuff through the therapists. He helped me out for half an hour on Tuesday when I was at Hamilton doing the therapist session in Hamilton. But I will say that it could be better. I am under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress with the workload that I have. I'm managing to do it, but it would be a lot easier if you know, some of the things were alleviated from me. It was one of the things that I mentioned at the Student Voice, was that with the workload that I have, if the workload was stretched out a wee bit across, you know, other officers, then that piece of work will get done so much better and more effective, because you've got more time to devote to a specific project rather than having to, you know, do a wee bit of this, a wee bit of that, a wee bit of this and a wee bit of that.
So what are you going to do about it? How are you going to alleviate your own stress with regards to this role that you find yourself overloaded with?
I guess I'm going to have to speak to my fellow officers and ask them to what kind of things that they could, you know, take off my shoulders, that they can manage on either on their own campus or across all of the campuses, to ensure that, you know, the work is getting done, because that's the most important part, is that if it's a campaign, make sure that work is getting done. If it's report writing, etc., whatever it is, the most important thing is that it gets done, and gets done well.
Okay. My email sat in your outbox for a week without your knowledge. What steps have you put in place to prevent this happening to a potentially distressed student?
So what I've been doing since our email conversation around that is screening all my emails in the morning, and then filtering them into certain labels on my email system, and then dealing with them on a priority list. So if it's a report that I get in that I need to read for a meeting in 2 weeks, that'll sort of like go down to the bottom. And if it's a student who's wanting advice or help, I've been answering them as soon as possible, usually as soon as I see it.
Okay. How many emails, tweets, Facebook statuses are from the university as a whole to students per day? How do you ensure that yours get read and taken into account and not lost in a sea of possibly irrelevant information?
So I still use my student email. I look at that on a regular basis. So I know how many emails I've been getting from the university. It seems to be every other day that I get one from the university, from me personally. And with Facebook, obviously I follow the university, and I've got them favorited on Twitter as well, so that I know exactly what the university is up to. So as soon as they send out a tweet, I get the notification through my phone, and that's quite a lot. They do send out a lot of information out there, which can be a problem, because you start then to swamp students, and they will then become sort of blind, because they'll just sort of like glaze over the information. They need to sort of like strike a balance between you know, the content and the quality of the content. With regards to how do I get my stuff out there, I have a separate Facebook account for this role, and I have just over 1,100 students on it, which is, I mean that's a lot of students I can get to personally, to do that Facebook account. So if I'm hosting an event, like my therapist, I use that a lot to get students on board with the positive and stress event that I ran, especially with the sexual health stuff as well, and to let them know about Student Voice, let them know basically about anything that's happening. But I try not to bombard them. I said that with the surveys. When I posted up about the e-resources survey that I did, I was very apologetic, because I know how over-surveyed students can get. But I have tried to get as much information out to them without overloading them.
Okay. Calendars have been set up for each of the sabbatical officers for specific purposes. You've all been asked to keep this up to date with any relevant information, for example, what you're doing at different times of the day and any annual leave that you're on. Have you been doing this?
Yes.
Why are there gaps? What are you doing when there's nothing scheduled on your calendar?
So I think personally that my calendar is the most up to date and full. I put everything in it that I'm doing, all the reports, all the committees that I attend. With annual leave, I've only had 2 weeks, which I took end of August and start of September, which is already in the calendar. The bits that are, that have gaps is when I'm, out talking to students or working on reports for the various committees. My role is very committee heavy. If you look at, say, the sports president role, they only sit on one committee, which is Student Experience Committee. I sit on the Student Experience Committee, Education Advisory Committee, Assessment Policy and Practice Committee. I sit on Academic Quality Committee. I sit on Senate. I sit on Court, and that's just 7 that I can think of just now. So although the actual dates of those committee meetings are in my calendar, you'll be able to see them. If there's blank bits, I will usually be working from my desk and looking at the various reports and papers that come out of that. As well as getting out and talking to students as much as I can, which I have been trying to do. At the start of the year when I took up office, one of the promises I made to myself and the students was I would be truly cross-campus, and that's what I've tried to do. I've been across to Ayr and Hamilton at least 3-4 times a month. Dumfries, I've not yet managed to get down to Dumfries, but I will try to do that. With the therapist stuff especially, one of the challenges I set myself was to ensure that it happened in Ayr. It didn't happen in Ayr at all last year, and I didn't understand why. I get told that you have a certain criteria that must be filled. I get told that criteria couldn't be filled, so I did my own investigation and I managed to get them there. So my next challenge is to get it in Dumfries for T2, so that'll be in March, April kind of time. So when that happens in trimester 2, it will happen in Dumfries. I made that challenge to myself for Ayr, it happened, and I'm making that challenge to myself for Dumfries, it will happen.
Okay. So that concludes our interview and the questions that I have for you. Do you have anything that you would like to take this opportunity to say to your students?
Absolutely. One of the key things that is coming out of this session is about accountability. That's the main focus for these questions, and one of the main things in your role as Union Chair, and what I want for the students that come to UWS is to feel that they can hold us as student officers to account, and also to ensure that we are as available as possible. So that's why we now have our calendars on the website, freely available. Students can contact me whenever they want, and I'll help them with whatever it is that they need help with. So that's the main thing, is if any student wants to speak to me, they can phone me or they can email me and I will get back to them.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.